Today's Monday, July 31st, 2023, and I'm going to read 1 Kings chapter 20. I just wanted to show this off. I saw this earlier today. It's hilarious. China Zoo denies allegations that star attraction is a man in a sun bear costume. There are bear costumes out there, and I think that this has just been a long tradition, and it got out of hand with the gorilla chimpanzee thing. And of course, as technology increased, the suits have gotten better and better. But there's some really, really old photos of people in bear suits, bear costumes. And it reminds me of, there's really old media. I'm sure some of you watching this are familiar with some bizarre old movies that have very strange costumes. The costumes give very odd vibes, and like one movie in particular has a weird pig costume, and I think it's very possible that some of the media that they tell us is like old but not super old, like just the beginning of cinema. Sometimes I think that that's old footage from a previous reset, maybe from Tartaria or something. It's just too bizarre. Maybe some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of the early Hollywood stuff is just so bizarre. It doesn't seem like the kind of thing that somebody just starting would do. It's like very avant-garde. Who knows, Metropolis could be a film. How many of these silent films, maybe the silent films were from previous eras too. Like, it really could be that films like Metropolis were from a previous era, a previous reset. So Tartaria or something. And maybe some like Hollywood stars were just lookalikes. Maybe sometimes they just had to find a few lookalikes off the street to pretend to be the big actors and actresses. Anyways, that's just some random things I've been thinking about. I'm going to read 1 Kings chapter 20 today. It's an interesting chapter of the Bible. There's a 33 right here at the beginning. And Benhadad, the king of Syria, gathered all his hosts together, and there were 32 kings with him, so 33 altogether, and horses and chariots, and he went up and besieged Samaria and warred against it. I'll just say here that that's probably very, very common. You'll see a 33 reference where it's actually like a 32, but it's like 32 others. So where the total group is a 33, but somebody's mentioning the number 32 as like an additional 32. I just see that come all the time, where the number 32 comes up, but it's like an additional 32. So the whole is a 33. If you don't know why I'm talking about 33, it's just an inside joke for the people that run this place. The color bright orange, the number 33, they speak in signs and symbols. Verse 2, And he sent messengers to Ahab, king of Israel, into the city, and he said unto him, Thus saith Benhadad, Thy silver and thy gold is mine, thy wives also and thy children, even the goodliest, are mine. And the king of Israel answered and said, My lord, O king, according to thy saying, I am thine, and all that I have. And the messengers came again and said, Thus speaketh Benhadad, saying, Although I have sent unto thee, saying, Thou shalt deliver me thy silver and thy gold, and thy wives and thy children, yet I will send my servants unto thee tomorrow about this time, and they shall search thine house, and the houses of thy servants, and it shall be that whatsoever is pleasant in thine eyes, they shall put it in their hand, and take it away. Well, imagine if your servants had their own houses these days. Classes were better. Something about eunuchs, when you go and look into it, back in the day, that was a thing that you could do to elevate your status, like turn your child into a eunuch. And because the servants of the kings got treated really, really well. It almost reminds me, any of you watch the Mrs. Crocombe? Is that her name? There's some weird, like, old British thing that they live in a castle, and the servants, it was like better than being a peasant to serve in a household like that. And it's just so interesting to think. Something that I ponder these days are all the different history resets who are living in these grand palaces. And it would just be so interesting to like know you're the fourth generation and know about all the tech that has come and gone, and it would just be so interesting. What verse am I on? Verse 7. Then the king of Israel called all the elders of the land and said, Mark, I pray you, and see how this man seeketh mischief. For he sent unto me for wives, and for my children, and for my silver, and for my gold, and I denied him not. And all the elders and all the people said unto him, Hearken not unto him, nor consent. Wherefore he said unto the messengers of Benhadad, Tell my lord the king, all that thou didst send for to thy servant at the first I will do, but this thing I may not do. And the messengers departed and brought him word again. And Benhadad sent unto him and said, The gods do so unto me, and more also, if the dust of Samaria shall suffice for handfuls for all the people that follow me. And the king of Israel answered and said, Tell him, let not him that girdeth on his harness boast himself as he that putteth it off. And it came to pass, when Benhadad heard this message, as he was drinking, he and the kings in the pavilions, that he said unto his servants, Set yourselves in array. And they set themselves in array against the city. So, I mean, a lot of times, something that I notice, and that I'll readily admit, I mean, my reading comprehension is not good in general. I have to read things many, many times. But somebody tried to say before, like, oh, it's just because it's written in the King James English that you think that these people are smart and not stupid and wretched. No, just the way that people communicated back then, you can tell that they were intelligent people. The way that they communicated, that they could be poetic with one another and they would understand the messages being sent. They understand symbolism. They understand, they were not stupid. It's just very clear from reading the Bible that even though people look on history, times past, and think of people as being less evolved back then, stupider, to me it's clear that their intelligence level far surpasses people today. Even myself. And think about just how much toxic crap gets put into us ever since birth, and how far man has fallen by this point. Each reset, libraries are burned, things are lost. Anyways. And behold, there came a prophet unto Ahab, king of Israel, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Hast thou seen all this great multitude? Behold, I will deliver it into thine hand this day, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. And Ahab said, By whom? And he said, Thus saith the Lord, even by the young men of the princes of the provinces. Then he said, Who shall order the battle? And he answered, Thou. Then he numbered the young men of the princes of the provinces, and they were 232. Interesting. 232. And after them he numbered all the people, even all the children of Israel, being 7,000. And they went out at noon. But Benhadad was drinking himself drunk in the pavilions, he and the kings, the 32 kings that helped him. And the young men of the princes of the provinces went out first. And Benhadad sent out, and they told him, saying, There are men come out of Samaria. And he said, Whether they be come out for peace, take them alive, or whether they be come out for war, take them alive. So these young men of the princes of the provinces, it's interesting how they keep repeating the princes of the provinces, came out of the city, and the army which followed them. And they slew every one his man, and the Syrians fled, and Israel pursued them, and Benhadad, king of Syria, the king of Syria, escaped on a horse with the horsemen. And the king of Israel went out and smote the horses and chariots, and slew the Syrians with a great slaughter. And the prophet came to the king of Israel, and said unto him, Go, strengthen thyself, and mark, and see what thou doest. For at the return of the year of the king of Syria will come up against thee. So an interesting thing, yeah, the ancient Israelites were warriors, and they were good warriors. I mean, they had God on their side. People trembled when they knew that the Israelites were in the area, because they knew of the things that God did for them. And yeah, not necessarily because of the Israelites themselves, which is an interesting thing, but because they knew God was on their side. And yeah, just something interesting that reminds me of Revelation 3:9 is how people who claim to be Jews today, do they seem like people that came from like a warrior slave class? I don't know. They seem more like gypsies to me, just like a parasitic class, parasitic type of people, not a people who were being persecuted all the time and warriors. That's not what I think of when I think of your average Jew today. So I think Revelation 3:9 has probably already happened. So I'm going to finish off this chapter. And the servants of the king of Syria said unto him, their gods are gods of the hills, therefore they were stronger than we. But let us fight against them in the plain, and surely we shall be stronger than they. So interesting, it seems like Syria doesn't understand. They're pagans, and they don't quite understand the difference between pagan gods and worshiping the true God, the creator of everything. And do this thing, take the kings away, every man out of his place, and put captains in their rooms. And number thee an army, like the army that thou hast lost, horse for horse, and chariot for chariot, and we will fight against them in the plain, and surely we shall be stronger than they. And he hearkened unto their voice, and did so. I don't understand exactly the kings away and put captains in their rooms. Almost like all hands on deck. Is that what's going on there? It's like he wants all the kings to come to battle. So is it like if the president is dead or can't do something right now, the vice president is in power? I don't know what's going on there. Just guessing. I guess it's worth pointing out here that some people have mentioned about footnotes and things. I actually don't really support footnotes in the Bible. I think if you have a study Bible, then footnotes are okay. But I think in your day-to-day readings, your day-to-day Bible, you shouldn't let footnotes, because I think that sometimes you're adding. I think sometimes that's people. I think everybody should be up to themselves to interpret the Bible and have their own opinions about it. I think that when you get too many footnotes, you're listening to people instead of the word. Because then you start reading commentaries and interpretations. Well, and it's sometimes a single verse can mean multiple things or have multiple connections. So anyways, I just thought I'd point that out there. There's a reason I don't really like footnotes, and I typically don't go and read what Wikipedia says about things. It can be helpful though sometimes when you're studying. So I'm not like too good for it or anything. I just think in general, you should just read the text. And just have discussions with people, see what other people have to say about it. And the children of Israel were numbered and were all present and were against them. And the children of Israel pitched before them like 2 little flocks of kids. But the Syrians filled the country. And there came a man of God and spake unto the king of Israel and said, thus saith the Lord, because the Syrians have said, the Lord is God of the hills, but he is not God of the valleys. Therefore will I deliver all this great multitude into thine hand, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. And they pitched one over against the other 7 days, and so it was that in the 7th day the battle was joined. Excuse me, my throat is just really dry today. Verse 30. But the rest fled to Aphek into the city, and there was a wall fell upon 27,000 of the men. Oh, did I skip one? Oh, I skipped the second half of verse 29. Not quite there yet. Okay, so, and they pitched one over against the other 7 days. And so it was that in the 7th day the battle was joined, and the children of Israel slew of the Syrians 100,000 footmen in 1 day. Wow. So yeah, the Israelites were an army like no other. They were very often outnumbered, but just slew crazy amounts of people. And this brings up just a good topic. This is actually something that we've been talking about in church past couple weeks, is the objections that people bring to the Bible, and like, how can God be a just God and loving if he's ordering people to go out and kill other people? And I think that people that have those objections just have really shallow understandings, and that people like that are most often projecting their own ideas onto God, and that's not right. That it's not up to us to decide how God is, and I just think that's a very shallow understanding of life. I think that these people, what, do you expect life to be sunshine and roses? Have you ever looked at the animal kingdom? Have you looked at the chaos that unfolds in the animal kingdom, and how little nature, if you want to give it a name, cares when a predator's ripping another one apart? And you're going to complain when God uses man as an instrument to squelch out evil on earth? I mean, God wasn't just having his people go and murder innocent, poor little innocent people. He was having humans kill people in righteousness, because these people were horrible pagans. They had child sacrificing traditions. They were sodomites, etc. The list goes on. Who knows? The depths of their evils knows no bounds, but there's nothing new under the sun. Hitler came to power around the same time that Jews in Germany were pushing transgenderism and homosexuality, and we're back to that today, but they would never tell you about that in history class. Not once will they mention, oh yeah, before that Hitler guy went into power, did you know that there were Jews in Germany pushing homosexuality and transgenderism in the 30s? So nothing new under the sun. And things are different today. That's another thing. Things are different today, and God is not ordering us to go on crusades anymore, because we don't live in Bible times. I mean, we do live in end times Bible times today, but we don't live in medieval times anymore. God understands context. That's the point. And I think people severely lack context, and they think that life is sunshine and roses, and I don't agree with that. Okay, so they slayed of the Syrians 100,000 footmen in one day, but the rest fled to Aphek into the city, and there a wall fell upon 20 and 7,000. That's interesting. They were like hiding in the walls. It reminds me of the arches, the giant arches they still have around, how you can go inside of them, like the Arc de Triomphe. You can go inside of them. It sounds like the walls were fortifications that people would go inside of. But who knows? Maybe it fell backwards and squished them. I don't know. And 7,000 of the men that were left, and Benhadad fled and came into the city, into an inner chamber. And his servants said unto him, Behold now, we have heard that the kings of the house of Israel and merciful kings, let us, I pray thee, put sackcloth on our loins and ropes upon our heads, and go out to the king of Israel. Peradventure he will save thy life. So they girded sackcloth on their loins and put ropes on their heads, and came to the king of Israel, and said, Thy servant Benhadad saith, I pray thee, let me live. And he said, Is he yet alive? He is my brother. Now the men did diligently observe whether anything would come from him, and did hastily catch it. And they said, Thy brother Benhadad. Then he said, Go ye, bring him. Then Benhadad came forth to him, and he caused him to come up into the chariot. And Benhadad said unto him, The cities which my father took from thy father I will restore, and thou shalt make streets for thee in Damascus, as my father made in Samaria. Then said Ahab, I will send thee away with this covenant. So he made a covenant with him and sent him away. So this kind of goes with what I was talking about in the last chapter, how it seems like kings did have some sort of divine protection. Big players on the world stage. I mean, it's just an interesting concept that certain people are like flagged in life as like a special person, and it's just the way it is. The different people are different and have different destinies. And a certain man of the sons of the prophets said unto his neighbor in the word of the Lord, Smite me, I pray thee. And the man refused to smite him. Then said he unto him, Because thou hast not obeyed the voice of the Lord, behold, as soon as thou art departed from me, a lion shall slay thee. And as soon as he was departed from him, a lion found him and slew him. Then he found another man and said, Smite me, I pray thee. And the man smote him, so that in smiting he wounded him. So the prophet departed and waited for the king by the way, and disguised himself with ashes upon his face. Man, what is happening here? I gotta go back up and read some of this. Like, who's this man? So he made a covenant with him and sent him away. And a certain man of the sons of the prophets said unto his neighbor in the word of the Lord, I don't know who this certain man is. And the man refused to smite him. Okay, so I'm not sure who this certain man is. You can let me know. Interesting, though, walking to people and telling them to kill him. Okay, so verse 39. And as the king passed by, he cried unto the king, and he said, Thy servant went out into the midst of the battle, and behold, a man turned aside, and brought a man unto me, and said, Keep this man. If by any means he be missing, then shall the life be for his life, or else thou shalt pay a talent of silver. And as thy servant was busy here and there, he was gone. And the king of Israel said unto him, So shall thy judgment be, thyself hast decided it. And he hastened and took the ashes away from his face. And the king of Israel discerned him that he was of the prophets. And he said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, because thou hast let go out of thy hand a man whom I appointed to utter destruction, therefore thy life shall go for his life, and thy people for his people. And the king of Israel went to his house heavy and displeased, and came to Samaria. Oh, wow. Okay, so sometimes, maybe some people picked up on that. Yeah, sorry. Today my reading is not top notch, but sometimes things in the Bible require a second reading. So I'm actually just going to stop here. I've talked enough for the day, and I will come back in the next video with a summary of what just happened at the end of this chapter, because I have some vague ideas, but I'm going to have to go study the Bible a little bit more. God bless everyone.